Hello, I'm Jan Shravinsky, and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. During an election-heavy weekend, several countries had people going to the polls, but nowhere was this actually more impactful than in Georgia. A country where the people of Georgia are fighting to continue the pro-European path despite the alleged interference from Russia. The country's president, Salome Zurabishvili, said that she does not accept the results of the election, saying that they were rigged on behalf of the Kremlin. So what does it lead to? Will Georgia be able to continue its path towards Europe, or will it descend into the state of democratic backsliding and increased interference from Russia? Well, we're going to be asking these questions and more to our guest today, Viktor Kipiani, chairman at GeoCase. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
So now, the crucial question everyone is asking is whether the Georgian Dream Party has pulled a Lukashenko and now is laughing in the face of the people. In short, do you believe the election was rigged?
Actually, we spoke recently about the two realities which have been portrayed by different polls, the polls done by the ruling party and the polls done by the opposition. Different pictures presented to Georgian voters by Georgian media, which is polarized like the Georgian political landscape is. But what happened on Saturday, and as a result of Saturday's elections, and I have to point out to the statement by President Zurabishvili, who said that something unusual has happened. And I think, that is very critical phrase in her statement. And that unusual goes back to this support, which based on the official results by the Georgian Central Electoral Commission, has been allocated in terms of a number of seats to Georgian Dream. That's something, that unusual perception and the perceptions that something wrong went on, because the allocation of those seats and the more than 53% of voters to Georgian Dream as if does not reflect the broad perceptions and the reality on the ground. So this is the critical question which has to be addressed. And of course, one side of the story is perceptions. Another side of the story is to get strong evidences in support of any allegations that there was a broad and massive abuse of the power by the authorities. That process, by the way, goes on. We already witnessing a very convincing data, I should say, which flows in terms of the fraudulent actions of different scale, of different nature. So I think that we have to see in a very near future a much more clear and explicit picture.
But before this investigation is complete, do you think that the future of Georgia could be decided on the streets? The country's president said people should come out and protest against what she sees as a blatant example of election interference by Russia.
I'm not exactly sure about a most precise form or a most adequate form or most accurate form in which this crisis has to be addressed. And of course, with all appreciation of international support, which we've been getting before and which we're getting these days, what is clear, what is sort of, clear to me that the fate of Georgia should be decided by Georgian people. The fate of Georgia should be decided by Georgian voters in one way or another. And if that requires some sort of, let's say, the public outcry, if you will, to put in this way, yes, this should go alongside with that process which I've already mentioned, because actually when we speak about alleged rigged elections, it's about the procedural democracy. And that procedural democracy goes right to the bottom, to the core of itemizing every single fraudulent action and challenging and protecting every single voter's voice.
So you've mentioned the support of the international community. Let's talk about reactions. The European Union was fairly restrained. They say that all the allegations of misconduct have to be investigated thoroughly. We have also some more forceful reactions from the European Union officials from European Union countries specifically, such as the president of Georgia has announced that the parliamentary elections were falsified. Europe must stand with the Georgian people. And these are the words of Poland's Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski. And this was echoed by many of other statements. But there is also an exception. And let me read out to you the response of Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban. And he said, and I quote, "Congratulations to Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze and the Georgian Dream Party on their overwhelming victory at the parliamentary elections today. The people of Georgia know what is best for their country and made their voice heard today." The thing is, this was actually community noted on X because of issues with that post, specifically that it was made before the votes had been counted. So what do you make of that? Is it simply Viktor Orban, and again, engaging in rogue foreign policy kind of thing? Why did he congratulate the Georgian dream before the results were even known?
Well, Mr. Orban is always a special case. We all know that. And by the way, he will be arriving to Tbilisi today to congratulate on the ground the Georgian dream with the parliamentary victory, in his understanding, of course. But if we go back to the principal question and more important question about the international support, what we've seen so far, different statements by different institutions and different officials, to some extent, although speaking about a range of violations in the course of electoral campaign, and on the E-Day itself, those statements are not very robust, quite measured in terms of tempo, in terms of criticizing directly or challenging, I would say, directly legitimacy of the elections. And I think that should be appreciated, that should be understood, because challenging the legitimacy of the elections is a very high threshold, is extremely high and elevated bar. And when we spoke about laying down clear evidences and clear facts or circumstances to challenge in a legal and most precise way the legitimacy of those the elections. And again, rephrasing your question and my response, where the destiny of Georgia should be decided, I think that very important exercise of gathering the direct facts or direct circumstances or evidences speaking to the violations and massive violations of in the course of electoral campaign, that exercise on the Georgian side. Once that exercise is completed, if and when, I think the international statements would be even with a bigger vigor and be more robust and would be more right to the point. And that critical point is about recognizing the Georgian elections as legitimate or challenging their legitimacy.
Well, you mean the investigations on the Georgian side, surely you mean the opposition and NGOs, because the government probably is not really going to be trusted in investigating its alleged misdeeds and misconduct in this regard. But the question is, will the opposition be able to do this, given that the government said we're going to delegalize opposition parties? Will NGOs be able to do that, given that the government has passed legislation aimed against them, the Foreign Agents Law?
At this point in time, a key issue is not about a specific piece of legislation. A key point is about geopolitical destiny of Georgia and the Georgian statehood, indeed. And I won't be exaggerating when I'm saying about the Georgian statehood, because by the Georgian statehood, we exactly mean a proper form of governance. So at this point in time, we've criticized the Georgian opposition on many instances, and I think that criticism has been fair enough. But now I think appreciation of the difficulties and challenges we all are facing, and Georgian opposition and Georgian society does not leave us with any option, including the Georgian opposition, except of the unity, except of very highly coordinated efforts. So there is no other way, there is no other alternative, and I very much hope that that appreciation, that acknowledgement of the reality is taking very firm hold in the rank and file of Georgian opposition as well.
So the European Council President Charles Michel said that this is going to be the topic of conversation within European Union institutions soon. Assuming that evidence is found that these elections were not reliable, that there were cases of vote rigging, what do you think the European Union should do? Should it suspend the path of Georgia towards the European Union, or should it maintain it for the case of the people of Georgia? What do you think the reaction might be here?
Formally, based on the very recent statements by European Union, that integration process has already been suspended, has already been halted by the European Union. As for other measures, of course, it's difficult to speculate from my side, at least, what those possible measures could be. The only caveat, which I have to point out necessarily, because it has been mentioned on a number of instances about possibly suspending visa-free regime with Georgia. I think that would be a very fundamental and gross mistake. I think that very nexus of EU with Georgian people, and Georgian people in the most part of its society being the biggest ally of the European aspirations in Georgia, I think that nexus should be left untouched.
So overall, we have a very dynamic situation in Georgia. We are obviously awaiting updates when it comes to the reaction of the Georgian people to the election results. Where will this go? Well, only time will tell. Victor Kipiani was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.